You're not stuck. You're just looping the same signal. You wake up and it already feels wrong. Not in any dramatic, obvious way, just subtly wrong. As if the air around you is heavier than it should be, like something inside you is trying to move, but can't. You lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, realizing you've woken up in the exact same version of life again. It's the same day, with the same patterns, the same roles you play, and the same reactions you've rehearsed 1,000 times. You go through your routine. You try to be optimistic. You check your phone. You drink your coffee. You pretend things are moving, but they're not. And deep down, some part of you already knows this isn't just a bad week or a phase. This is something deeper. This is a kind of spiritual inertia. It feels like being trapped, but not in chains, in repetition. Like your life is a signal that keeps rebroadcasting the same message, and no matter what you do, nothing truly shifts. But here's the first truth you're not going to like. You are not stuck because the universe is withholding from you. You are stuck because the version of you that's currently running your life is still broadcasting the same signal. And the quantum field, the environment of infinite potential you live in, responds only to what you are, not to what you want, not to what you hope, not to your mood or your prayers. It mirrors your signal, consistently, mechanically, indifferently. And that signal is built from the thought you've repeated the longest. Most people never realize this. They believe that reality is something out there that they must fight, earn, or wait for. But in quantum terms, you are not living in reality. You are living in the collapsed echo of a belief system, a specific, precise frequency. And you are selecting that version of reality over and over again by embodying the same energetic structure every day. If nothing is changing on the outside, it's because nothing has truly changed on the inside. We have been trained to think that change happens by doing more, by taking action, by adjusting habits. And yes, action matters, but only when the internal frequency has shifted first. Otherwise, the action is still broadcasting the old signal, and the field responds accordingly. Let me explain. In quantum physics, there's a principle called the observer effect. It shows that reality behaves differently depending on whether or not it is being observed. But it's not the act of seeing that creates the shift. It's the state of the observer, the emotional posture, the subconscious signature behind the attention. You could be visualizing success while unconsciously radiating fear, and the field will not respond to your visualization. It will respond to your fear. This is why most manifestation teachings fail. People try to overlay new thoughts over an unchanged energetic baseline. They say, "I am abundant," but their body still flinches every time they look at their bank account. They say, "I trust the universe," but they obsessively check for results. And so, the field hears the contradiction, not the intention. The signal doesn't lie. So what's actually keeping you stuck? One thought, not the kind you say out loud, but the kind that sits like a virus deep in your subconscious. A belief that got locked into your nervous system early in life. Maybe it was, "I'm not enough." Maybe it's dangerous to be seen. Maybe I always mess things up. It could be subtle. It could even sound noble. But it's running the show. This belief became your energetic set point. It became the background vibration that your identity, behavior, and perception orbit around. And the quantum field, with all its infinite potential, simply collapses the wave into the one version of life that matches that exact signal. No mystery, no resistance, just physics. So the prison isn't your job, your relationships, your city, or your past. The prison is the signal. And the signal is coming from the belief you never examined. You didn't even install it consciously, but you've been living inside it for years. Here's where it gets painful. Familiarity is magnetic. You stay stuck not because you like it, but because your nervous system is loyal to the frequency of your past. And anything that threatens to change, that feels like death. even freedom. When you've spent your whole life vibrating at a frequency of scarcity, then abundance feels unsafe. When you've carried shame for decades, then love feels suspicious. When you've survived through control, then surrender feels like falling. So instead of shifting, you loop. You loop through the same behaviors, relationships, financial patterns, emotional spirals, all of them designed not to punish you, but to keep you aligned with the version of reality your body expects. This is the quantum glitch. We're not stuck in place. We're stuck in resonance. You don't need to change the world. You need to change the signal you're sending to it. And that change cannot come from force. It must come from identity-level coherence. Which brings us to the question you've probably avoided until now. Who are you without the thought that's been defining your life? What if you woke up tomorrow with no memory of who you've been, just the feeling of possibility? What kind of reality would you begin to receive? What kind of world would the field start reflecting back? Most people won't ask that question, because the moment they do, they sense the void behind the thought. And that's terrifying. But if you're ready for something real, not motivational, not trendy, not viral, then you have to look straight at that thought. Name it. Feel it. See how much of your life has been built around it. And then ask yourself, who benefits from you staying stuck? Because I promise you, it's not your future self. There's something else you need to hear. The field you exist in, the quantum space of possibility, doesn't care about your effort. It doesn't reward you for being good or punish you for mistakes. It simply reflects back what you are currently broadcasting. And that broadcast comes from your identity-level assumptions. Not what you want, not what you say, but what your subconscious expects. This is why so many people stay trapped in the same loop for years. They change jobs, but the same pattern follows. They leave relationships, but the emotional dynamic repeats. They move to new cities, learn new techniques, read new books, but the underlying frequency doesn't shift. So reality doesn't shift, because nothing in the external world changes the signal unless the internal system updates first. And no system updates unless it feels safe. This is the hidden lock. Your body will not allow you to live in a new reality until it believes that it's safe to do so. And for many people, the identity they're trying to manifest isn't safe. It's unfamiliar. It threatens the survival system that has kept them psychologically alive all these years. Think about that. Your nervous system would rather keep you small, but stable, than allow you to expand into unknown territory where new emotions, risks, and unknown outcomes await. Because the subconscious doesn't prioritize joy. It prioritizes predictability. That's why the same thought, the old one, the one you never really chose but have lived with, stays alive. Not because you agree with it, but because your nervous system does. And until you give your nervous system new evidence, it won't let go. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. You can know the belief is false, you can understand it logically, you can even teach others how to overcome it, and still loop it yourself. Because transformation happens not in the mind, but in the signal. In the moment your breath, your posture, your voice, your emotion, your memory align into a new state. That's when the shift begins. Not because you demanded it, but because the field can finally read it. Let's go deeper. The quantum field doesn't just respond to alignment. It responds to coherence. That means your thoughts, emotions, and physiology are no longer in conflict. No more saying, "I trust life," while your shoulders are clenched and your jaw is locked. No more repeating, "I am enough," while your stomach sinks at the idea of being seen. Coherence is when the entire organism, mind, heart, nervous system, is telling the same story. And when that happens, the field responds instantly. Not because it's a miracle, because that's how reality works at a foundational level. You broadcast a frequency. The field matches it. If you're not receiving something, it's not because you're unlucky, it's because you're not a vibrational match to it. Yet. And this is where it gets truly uncomfortable. Most people think they're waiting for a breakthrough, but in reality, they're avoiding the emotional death of the identity they've been loyal to. Because to change the signal, you have to let a part of you die. Not literally, but psychologically. The you who was always the victim. The you who needed validation. The you who believed that life was against them. The you who survived by shrinking, apologizing, controlling. That version of you served a purpose. It kept you safe. It helped you adapt. It got you here. But it can't take you further, because it's not compatible with the reality you're trying to enter. And here's the paradox. Until you thank that version fully, deeply, respectfully, it won't let go, because it still thinks you need it. That's why transformation is not war. It's not discipline. It's grief. The real shift happens when you allow yourself to mourn the version of you that's been holding on. And that mourning opens the frequency of surrender, the first real gateway to quantum change. Now I'm going to ask you something uncomfortable. Who are you if you are no longer proving, surviving, fixing, or chasing? What happens to your identity when there's nothing left to defend? What would it actually feel like to embody a reality where you are already enough? Be honest. For most people, that reality feels empty. Not because it is, but because they've built their entire emotional identity around being not quite there yet, around the struggle, around the wait, around the self-improvement chase. And when you remove all that noise, silence arrives. And for some, silence feels terrifying. But in quantum space, silence is not absence. It's clarity. It's potential. It's raw, unfiltered choice. You stop reacting. You start choosing. And when you choose, really choose, you collapse a new wave. You select a different line of reality, not through effort, but through signal. That is when things begin to change. That's when people start showing up. That's when ideas appear. That's when reality becomes fluid. Not because you manifested something, but because you became someone. And that someone is no longer loyal to the old thought. Let me make this brutally clear. The life you're experiencing now, the relationships, the opportunities, the limits, even the resistance, is not random. It's not punishment. It's not karma. It's a perfect reflection of the signal you've stabilized over time. If you're still stuck in the same emotional patterns, the same arguments, the same problems showing up with different faces, it's not because life is against you. It's because your field is set to receive one station. And you keep forgetting. You are the one holding the dial. The only thing you're waiting for is yourself. But not the version of you that's listening to this right now. The version that still flinches when truth hits too hard. The version that wants change but fears what must be lost in the process. The version that says, I'm ready, but still loops the same feeling of waiting. You can't bring the old thought into the new timeline. It won't fit. It doesn't resonate. It will be rejected by the field. This is why you keep circling back. Every time you glimpse the edge of transformation, the thought pulls you back. Not with force, but with familiarity. A whisper that says, you're not ready yet. And you listen. Again. And the signal returns. Again. And the loop continues. But now, you know, you're not stuck. You're consistent. And the moment you stop repeating the thought, the field will stop repeating the life. So stop performing rituals. Stop chasing signs. Stop asking the mirror to change before you do. Breathe. Feel into the new frequency, even if it's unfamiliar. Let your body feel what it would be like to live without the old thought. Would you even recognize yourself? Would the people in your life still relate to you? Would you feel free, or would you feel exposed? This is the threshold. And here's the invitation. Cross it. Not with control, not with force, with resonance. Choose a new thought. One that isn't built on fear. One that doesn't need validation. One that feels almost too big to hold because it came from the version of you you've only met in dreams. Then hold it, breathe it, and begin sending that signal. Because once your body believes it, reality has no choice but to follow. Now pause for a moment. Before we move forward, I want you to do one thing. If any part of this spoke to something buried in you, something old, something real, leave a comment. Not just for the algorithm, for you. As a declaration, a new signal, a stake in the field. Type, "I'm done looping," 3 words. That's all. But they might change everything. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not because I said something you liked, but because some part of you knows. This message found you for a reason. We're not here for content. We're here to remember. You've heard the idea, change your thoughts, change your life. But that's only a fraction of the truth. Because here's the real trap. You can change your thoughts every day and still keep attracting the same old version of reality. Why? Because your body doesn't believe you. It remembers the pain, the failure, the identity you said you wanted to outgrow. And in the quantum field, it's not your conscious affirmations that send the signal. It's your emotional posture, your physiological baseline, the resonance your cells are pulsing with when you're not paying attention. The real prison isn't your circumstances. It's the emotional reflex loop you've rehearsed 1,000 times, the one you think is just how I am. You don't fear change. You fear the unfamiliar sensation of being someone new. And your body will resist that. When you try to feel powerful, it remembers helplessness. When you visualize wealth, it remembers stress. When you declare, "I am enough," it remembers shame. This is not sabotage. This is neurochemical addiction. Your body is addicted to the feelings of your past self. And no thought, no vision board, no affirmation, no meditation can override a body that's running on the old script. That's why change feels fake. Why your nervous system tenses up when you try to believe something new. Because you're not just asking your brain to believe, you're asking your body to let go of its identity. And the body doesn't let go easily. Let's break it down. Every time you feel an emotion, your body releases a chemical signature: adrenaline for fear, cortisol for stress, dopamine for success, oxytocin for connection. Over time, your cells literally become shaped by these states. You don't just remember events. You remember states of being. And those states become your frequency. They become the signal that shapes your reality. If you've been vibrating at not enough for 10 years, trying to shift into "I am whole" will feel like a lie. Not because it isn't true, but because your body hasn't felt that signal before. So it resists. But that resistance is your portal. The moment your heart races when you try to believe something new, that's your nervous system protecting the old self. It's not failure, it's feedback. Your job is not to force a new belief. It's to regulate the nervous system long enough for the new identity to feel safe. This is the true path of quantum transformation. You want to change your life, then become emotionally fluent in the feeling of your new future. Even before you see it, especially before you see it, time is not what you think. You've been trained to see life as a straight line, past, present, future. But in quantum mechanics, time is a function of observation. The future exists now. Every version of you already exists, not metaphorically, but literally, in superposition. The version of you who is healthy, wealthy, deeply loved, fulfilled, is not a goal. It is a frequency already present in the field. And every day you're either collapsing into that timeline or reinforcing the one you've already lived. You think you're stuck because your reality won't shift. But the truth is, you haven't shifted your observation. You're still looking through the lens of the past. Here's the paradox. The more you observe from your trauma, the more you recreate it. The more you analyze your lack, the more it multiplies. Not because you're broken, but because you're powerful. You are the observer. And what you observe, with emotional charge, becomes form. This is why the moment you surrender, things start showing up. Why the moment you stop chasing, synchronicities begin. Because you've stopped observing from contraction and started resonating from coherence. The universe doesn't wait to reward you. It waits for alignment. But here's the hard truth. You won't collapse into your future until you let go of the timeline you keep feeding with your fear. So what's feeding it? Your obsession with the outcome, your refusal to trust, your addiction to figuring it out, your craving for proof, all of that is energy directed at the past. The timeline where you're still trying. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you stabilize. And stabilization means you live it now. You feel it now. You breathe it now. Even when your bank account disagrees. Even when no one believes you. Even when everything says you're not there yet, because the field isn't reading your circumstances. It's reading your signal. You say you want change. But are you prepared to die? Not physically, but psychologically. Because every quantum shift requires an identity death. The death of your roles, your defense mechanisms, your emotional habits, your excuses. You've built a self out of survival, out of being the good one, the strong one, the careful one, the unseen one. But the version of you who lives in the new reality, that self is unrecognizable to the one you're being now. And that's why you're afraid. Because real change means losing everything that made you feel safe. It means becoming new without external validation. It means feeling emotions your body has never been trained to hold. It means stepping into power without apology and being okay if people leave. Most never cross this threshold. They get close. They taste expansion, and then they shrink. Because the cost is too high. The death of who they thought they were. But here's what no one tells you. What dies isn't real. It's the costume, the coping mechanism, the illusion. What remains is signal. Clean, stable, magnetic. And that signal reshapes everything. You don't force the field to move. You collapse it by becoming someone else entirely. Not by pretending, but by remembering. The version of you who already lives the life you want. They're not in the future. They're just in a higher coherence. And coherence begins the moment you let go of the thought that kept you loyal to the old life.